Haunted cargo ship in the Bering Sea. 7 sinister rules for surviving the terrifying unknown. The wind screamed as Amelia stood at the dock, staring at the battered vessel that whispered of death and despair. Each wave lapped against the hull like the clamoring of past souls, languishing for release. "They say it's cursed," the locals murmured, pointing at the cargo ship that had survived the Bering Sea's dark embrace. Shadows darted beyond her vision, pulling at every hair on her neck. She felt their breath, cold and clammy, against her skin. But winter was creeping in, howling with hunger for her children, and she was still a mother. Amelia shook off the chill, knowing her 2 little ones, Lily and Max, were counting on her. She accepted the night shift, trading sanity for a paycheck. But as she crossed the threshold of that sinister ship, dread twisted in her gut. A candle flickered at the entrance, illuminating the warped wooden walls that seemed to tremble, alive with echoes of the past. The first whispered rule struck her: never enter without respect. The first night was filled with creaks and groans that echoed through the bowels of the ship, a symphony of malice. She recalled her mother's indifferent glance when she mentioned her plan. "It's just a job," Amelia had insisted. Her mother shrugged it off, too consumed with her own chaos. Staying afloat felt impossible now. As Amelia clocked in, her hands trembled, skin cold and clammy. She laughed it off, just the ship settling. But the cold whispers danced closer. Shadows flickered just beyond her reach, curling around machinery and hastening her heartbeat. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Weeks passed, monotony marred by doubt, and the chilling tales of the crew and their 7 sinister rules haunted her thoughts. No recklessness, the captain had warned with a charming smirk that never reached his stormy eyes. The ship doesn't welcome blind fools. Amelia shook her head at the superstitions that gripped the town, but hints of truth lurked in those warnings. The shadows grew closer, swirling in her periphery, while the whispers transformed into desperate wails that tugged at her heart. Alone and vulnerable, she felt the weight of her past dragging her further into despair. One cold night, fog rolled in like a living beast, devouring the ship. Time warped, and at 2 a.m., her phone rang. It was her mother. Panic gushed through her veins when she heard the words Lily and Max were gone. Gone. She stumbled back, the call cutting out like a dying flame. Amelia's feet moved of their own will, racing down the twisting hallways toward the storm-ravaged deck. She grasped the railing, cold sweat running down her spine. Frantic cries echoed in her head as the ship rocked violently, stirred by the tumultuous waves of the sea. There was no logic, no solid ground, only despair. She needed help. She found Jeb, an ex-captain locked in a world of darkness that the ship wielded. Together, they stepped into the nightmare, clawing at the truth hidden deep in its malevolent past. The vessel had swallowed lost things, leaving them undisturbed in a world hidden from the living. Just as they stumbled upon a cabin marked by decay and despair, a suffocating presence loomed behind them. Amelia spun, heat racing through her veins as a low whisper coiled around the silence. "Never turn your back to the darkness." As reality twisted and the world trembled beneath them, dread settled like ice in her gut. Her children's fate hung in the balance, tangled with a darkness that wanted nothing more than to take them. The air crackled with tension, a suffocating weight born from the shadows that loomed just out of sight. Amelia's breath quickened, fear sapping her courage as she faced the mocking emptiness of the cabin. Jeb was beside her, his normally rugged face pale, eyes wide with fear. Echoes of sorrow weaved around them, and the ship groaned, a living entity that drank in their dread. "Amelia, we need to move," Jeb stammered, his voice trembling as he glanced nervously toward the door. But the voice, a cold whisper that lingered in the corners of their minds, echoed again. clearer this time. "You don't belong here." Amelia shivered, every hair on her body standing on end. She could almost feel the shadows pulling at her, tugging her toward the darkness, promising untold secrets if only she would surrender. "What does it want?" she gasped, barely able to form the words. "It wants you to fear it," Jeb replied, gripping her shoulder. "Fear gives it power." Amelia's heart pounded. The memories of her children's laughter haunting her, was this what they felt before they vanished? The whispers merged into a chilling chorus of lost souls, each one begging to be heard. But what came next eclipsed everything she feared. The sound of tiny feet scampered through the hallway, laughter echoing a sweetness she thought she'd never hear again. "Lily? Max?" Amelia cried, rushing toward the door. Her hands trembled against the brass handle, doubts clawing at her insides. Jeb grabbed her arm, his grip firm. "Wait, what if it's a trap?" But the laughter grew more frantic, drawing her forward. She couldn't think of consequences. At that moment, the thought of hope outshone the lurking terror. The shadows curled tighter around her as she flung the door open, a swirl of briny air rushing in to envelop her. The narrow passageway was dark, but the giggles beckoned her deeper. Every instinct screamed for her to turn back, but she stumbled down the corridor, desperation driving her. With every step, the air thickened, tinged with a metallic scent, as though the walls were bleeding. Whispering voices merged into a cacophony, each one a memory from the ship's past, cries overlapping one another, eternity stretching in agonizing cycles of despair. Then she saw them. Just ahead, perched on a splintered deck, were her children, their faces illuminated by an ethereal glow that seemed otherworldly. They looked up, eyes sparkling with delight, oblivious to the horrors that lay heavy on the ship. "Mama!" they shouted in unison, innocence spilling over their features as they waved her closer. Amelia felt her heart soar, but a silky dread wrapped around it, tightening until she could barely breathe. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. "Don't go!" Jeb's voice snapped her back, dragging her to reality. The shadows flickered menacingly, snapping at her heels like wild beasts. "It's a trick. They're not really there." But the sight of the children, so close yet so impossible, sent her mind spiraling. She half-turned, craving reassurance, but the shadows heaved forward, a black tide that threatened to consume them. The whispers morphed into screams, clawing at her sanity, as the ship heaved violently beneath them. "Make a choice," Jeb shouted, eyes wild with panic. "Do you want to live, or are you willing to risk everything?" Amelia's heart raced, warring between hope and reality. Just as she felt the edges of her determination fray, a darkness coiled around her, drawing her deeper into itself. Her children's faces faded, the laughter morphed into chilling cries, and she took a step back, paralyzed with dread. What had she really summoned? The rules lingered in her mind like a noose tightening around her throat. Never trust the shadows. As her resolve slipped away, the haunting laughter echoed into the void, twisting into a promise of despair. Would she save her children or save herself? The darkness loomed closer. The choice hung in the air, ripe with terror, binding her to an impossible decision, one that would seal their fates forever. Suddenly, a crash below deck jolted her from her thoughts, a monstrous reshaping of reality that pressed down upon them. She had to move, but there was no longer a clear path between salvation and destruction. What awaited her beyond? Would she summon the courage needed before it was too late? The crash echoed through the cabin, sending vibrations through the wooden floorboards. Amelia's heart raced, every thud pulsating like a warning bell. "We need to go," she gasped, her voice nearly lost in the cacophony of the vessel's groaning. The shadows coiled tighter around her, making her feel small, exposed. Jeb nodded, his eyes darting to the corridor ahead. "This way." He tugged her further down the passage, pulling her away from the ghastly sight of the children. As they hurried, the air grew heavier, alive with an unseen malice. Each step seemed to draw them deeper into a web where the threads whispered forgotten secrets. Pairs of footsteps followed them, taunting, relentless, chilling her to the core. The ship creaked ominously, almost as if it were alive and aware of their desperation. "Why are we even here?" Amelia blurted, breathless. What happened? Her mind raced with visions of her children, shadows filled with laughter that twisted into grim realities. "Told you it was a trap," Jeb shouted over the growing din, his fingers tightening around her wrist. "We shouldn't have come aboard. It's cursed. Cursed." The words slithered into her thoughts, wrapping around her like a snake. Hadn't there been stories about this vessel? Whispers of a past filled with sorrow, of lives lost to the Bering Sea. Suddenly, another crash erupted from below deck, the sound like gunfire ripping through the night. The ship rocked violently, throwing them against the wall. Amelia barely regained her footing when she heard horrifying laughter echoing up from the depths, echoing her children's voices, mingling with shrieks that weren't human at all. "Move," Jeb urged, shoving her ahead. The corridor was an inky tunnel, the shadows stretching out like fingers, eager to grasp them. Panic surged in Amelia's chest as she fought back the temptation to look back, to see what lurked in the darkness behind her. What if it was really them? What if they needed her? "Don't listen." Jeb's voice cut through her thoughts, desperate and sharp. "We have to find a way off this ship." He gripped her arm, urgently pulling her toward an open hatch. Against her better judgment, Amelia stumbled after him. The hatch led into the galley, where rusted equipment lay abandoned, collecting dust and shadows alike. A flickering light burned in the corner, an old lantern that swung with a creak, illuminating the faded, peeling walls that a gust of wind howled through an open window, carrying whispers on its breath. She could almost hear words now, urgent and pleading. "Help us, bring us home, they're lying," Jeb yelled, pushing a crate against the wall. "Keep moving. They want to ensnare you." They stumbled through the galley, pressing against the fragile walls like caged animals. Blood rushed in Amelia's ears, drowning out the sinister laughter. She could feel the shadows pressing closer, suffocatingly intimate now. "What do they want?" She whispered, more to herself than to Jeb. "Souls. They want your fear. Don't give it to them." Amelia's breath shivered as another quake rocked the ship. The laughter morphed into a low, thundering chant that vibrated through her bones, pulling at her sanity. She felt it creep in, that insidious fear, curling around her heart, a flicker of doubt. The instincts that had kept her alive were fading, drowned in the overwhelming call of the past. Then, a sudden, blinding light split the shadows. The metal door to the other side of the galley burst open, revealing a shimmering portal that glimmered not with beauty, but with a predatory hunger. From it spilled a thick fog that swirled with shadowy shapes, flickering like tortured souls caught between worlds. "Run!" Jeb screamed, but she froze, caught in the gaze of the wraiths spilling from the light. Suddenly, she remembered the rules whispered long ago in hushed voices. Never look too closely into the light. It hides the worst. Yet the pull was stronger than logic. Could she really turn away? Could she resist what it promised? As Jeb's panicked cries faded, the fog pulled at her will, sinking deeper into her heart. With more urgency, the choice lay heavy on her shoulders between the dark that embraced her doubts and the light that beckoned with deceptive comfort. What awaited her if she stepped through? Would she find release or eternal damnation? The fog thickened. Would she shatter her own reality before it consumed her? The shadows twisted around Amelia, each flicker of the lantern sending cold chills down her spine. The ethereal wraiths seemed to stretch their wispy fingers toward her, their laughter now a swirling storm of mirth and madness. It echoed in her ears, bouncing off the walls as if the very ship conspired against her. "Amelia, don't!" Jeb's voice cut through her trance, harsh and urgent, shaking her from the grip of that insidious light. He was nearly clawing at her, his hands tight on her shoulders, saving her from the brink. "We can't stay. We have to find a way out of here. Look," she pointed, her voice trembling. The fog was shifting. The figures within it were taking clearer shapes. She saw faces lost, pleading, twisted in sorrow. Her heart ached, filled with a desperate need to reach them. They looked like the children from her memories, their laughter now a haunting mockery. But beneath the facade of their innocence lay an unmistakable hunger, a dark, chilling thirst. "Those aren't your children. It's a trick," Jeb growled, his frustration boiling over. He pulled her back from the edge of the glowing portal, forcing her to meet his eyes. "We need to go. Now." The ship shuddered again, and the laughter grew louder, filling the galley like a dense fog. Amelia hesitated, torn between the wraith's siren call and the urgent pleas of the man beside her. "But what if I can help them? They are echoes of what has been lost." Jeb shouted fiercely, "Don't give in to the sorrow. We have to survive." He pulled her further away from the baleful light, navigating through the maze of shadows and creaking ship parts. The galley felt smaller, more confining as the remnant memories surged around them, a tempest of haunting pasts. Amelia's pulse raced, each beat reverberating through her body like the ship's groans. As they moved, dark tendrils snaked closer, whispering sweet lies that wrapped around her ankles, threatening to drag her back toward that damned portal. "Where do we go?" she gasped, her voice quaking as panic twisted in her stomach. "There's an emergency exit." Jeb's tone held a frantic edge. Each word was a lifeline. "We can't keep facing this. Just hold on to me." They hurried through the narrow galley, Jeb guiding her away from the growing din. The air was thick, saturated with dread. She could feel the shadows twitching with irritation. But every step pulled Amelia deeper into an abyss of despair, the wraith's whispers more urgent, more enticing. They twisted her thoughts, rekindling her parental instincts that screamed to save what was ultimately lost. "Amelia," a voice dripped from the shadows, soft and familiar. It felt like her daughter's, laced with fear and hope. "Mommy, please don't listen." Jeb spat, pulling her firmly against him, their urgency colliding with the grim weight of her memories. The ship shuddered violently again, as if sensing her turmoil. The flickering lanterns overhead exploded one by one, plunging them into darkness, save for the glowing doorway beckoning them back. It whispered her name now, hot and insistent, wrapping around her in a poisonous embrace. Jeb shoved against a bulkhead, desperately scanning the walls for an escape. "It has to be here somewhere." Sweat dripped down his brow, his breath erratic. Then, with a howl, a cold wind burst through the galley, thickening the fog to an inescapable wall of despair, drowning out reason and hope. Many voices swirled for her attention, their cries mingling and sharpening into a singular intention, a chorus of lost souls desperate for freedom through her sacrifice. "Amelia," they moaned, stretching out their spectral hands, weeping shadows, impossible to resist. As the ship quivered, the flickering light pulsed, glowing ominously as if aware of Amelia's hesitation. Would she abandon the darkness for a flickering false dawn? Time stretched always, like the ship itself a creature alive with longing and regret. Suddenly, Jeb found a latch hidden beneath the peeling paint, pulling it open to reveal a dark passage. "This way," he sputtered, eyes wild. Amelia drew one last glance back at the glowing portal, her heart pounding like a war drum. What was the cost of turning her back? With a quick gasp, she scrambled through the passage, Jeb shoving the door shut behind them, leaving the whispers to wail unanswered in the galley. But the wraiths were not done yet. The walls seemed to shift, the darkness bending toward them with a relentless fury as they stumbled away. There was no escape from the past. It clung desperately. What would happen next? As they plunged deeper into the ship, another crash reverberated around them like death itself. Was it just the ship protesting, or something far worse hunting them down? Could they find safety before the shadows caught them again? Or would they join the other lost souls, trapped in a never-ending cycle of despair? Amelia's heart raced, each pulse a drumbeat of dread as the darkness pressed closer. They stumbled down the passageway, the narrow corridor punctuated by the ship's creaks and groans echoing like the lament of tormented souls. Jeb's grip on her hand was a stark lifeline, pulling her forward even as the shadows clawed at her senses, each fleeting whisper of those spectral wraiths piercing deep into her mind. "Keep moving," Jeb urged, voice ragged yet unwavering. The emptiness stretched ahead, swallowed by an all-consuming blackness that threatened to engulf them at any moment. "Hurry!" Amelia gasped, her breath hitching as a breeze brushed past her. Cold and unsettling. It carried with it a scent of decay, like the ghost of something long dead. The very walls seemed alive, pulsing as if the ship itself were aware of their fears, hungry for renewal by feeding on their despair. The passage widened, spilling them into a vast hold strewn with remnants, discarded cargo, old crates, rusted metal. Amelia glanced around, her chest tightening as memories of a lost life whispered through the shadows. "Jeb, we can't stay here." She felt the shadows snake around her ankles, reaching, pulling. "No choice." He shot back as he pushed a nearby crate in front of them, creating a barrier. "We can't let them in." The air grew still, pregnant with malice. The shadows recoiled momentarily from the wooden splinter, but the veil of darkness thickened, rising from the walls like a monstrous tide. It hissed, a sound like boiling water, and Amelia could hear the mournful wails of the lost souls echoing in the recesses of the hold. Amelia, the voice from before, sweet yet laced with desperation, resumed its siren call from beyond the barrier. "Mommy, don't go. Stop!" she screamed, anger surging as she clamped her hands over her ears. But the venomous whispers only grew louder, drowning her out. The wraiths were relentless, feeding off her fear and confusion. Faces swirled in her mind, shadowy figures morphing into grotesque versions of her lost children. "They want you to choose," Jeb yelled, his eyes wild with fear and determination. "Don't listen to them." Amelia clasped her hands to her heart, struggling to drown out the chaos. "If I can save them," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "What does that even mean?" Jeb shouted back, frustration mounting. "You're not saving anyone. Look where we are." Suddenly, a violent shudder rocked the ship, vibrating through the floor like the growl of a beast awakening. The lights flickered ominously, sporadic glimmers illuminating the hold in harsh flashes, revealing horrors hidden in the darkness. For just a heartbeat, a slender figure hunched in the corner, its face unidentifiable but twisted in misery. "Run!" Jeb's voice cut through the turmoil, snapping her back to the present. He grabbed her arm and pulled her toward a dark staircase leading upwards, further into the ship. As they raced up the stairs, shadows clawed at their heels. Jeb sent a glance behind, his eyes wide with terror as he realized the veil of darkness was slipping through the cracks, relentless in pursuit. "Why isn't it stopping?" Amelia panted, legs shaking as they ascended. "Maybe it's never going to stop," he yelled, determination battling against despair. "We have to find a way to get out before it swallows us whole." Bursting into another corridor, a chill swept through them. This one was lined with doors, tightly closed and whispering with the ghostly echoes of past lives. The ship felt now like a labyrinth, each turn a new doubt. What if we can't find a way out? Tears pooled in her eyes as the reality of their situation sank in. The darkness felt alive, wrapping around her throat like a tightening noose. Jeb stopped, face taut with resolve. "We will find a way. We have to." Suddenly, a door to their right creaked open, revealing a flickering light, beckoning. Amelia's breath caught in her throat. What if that's a trap? The door whispered her name, an inviting lilt that sent a shiver down her back. Could be a way out. Her instinct screamed to move forward, yet the pull of the shadows behind her made her hesitate. What if it leads to something worse? Jeb urged, eyes sharp with suspicion. Amelia was torn. Choices loomed heavy as the shadows stirred restlessly behind them. They could go forward into the uncertain light or back to face the shadows head-on. Each option seemed laden with despair, and the weight of countless souls pressed upon her shoulders. She took a breath, her voice trembling. What if that's where it ends? What if we just walk into the dark? They shared a fleeting glance, words unspoken heavy between them. But no matter what direction they chose, the darkness would always be close behind. Would they dare face the light, or would retreat into the shadows be their only chance for survival? As the door swung open, casting an ethereal glow, Amelia felt the shadow's cold breath on her neck. Was it too late to escape? The moment the door opened, the light spilled out like molten gold, warm and inviting against the chilling presence that threatened to swallow them whole. A flicker of hope danced in the corners of Amelia's mind, yet it struggled against the suffocating grip of despair. She could still hear the whispers lingering in the dark, taunting her, urging her to choose, to leave behind the shadows that scuttled at her heels. "We need to decide now," Jeb urged, his voice snapping her from her trance. He glanced back, and fear etched itself deeper into his features. The shadows writhed with a life of their own, pulsating and coiling, hungry for the warmth of their flesh. Together, Amelia felt a rush of strength, a spark that was almost foreign to her now. "Whatever is in there, we face it together." Without waiting for a reply, she took a step toward the light, Jeb's hand firm around her wrist. They stepped through the threshold and into a room that pulsated with a soft glow, illuminating what seemed like an abandoned captain's quarters. It was a strange contrast to the darkness that lay just outside. Dust-laden maps covered the walls, tapestries of past voyages draped from the ceiling, but it was the large, weathered desk that caught Amelia's eye. Curled papers lay strewn across it, ink barely legible under layers of grime. "This place, it feels different," Jeb said, eyeing their surroundings cautiously, as the door behind them creaked ominously before shuddering to a close. The comforting glow that once enveloped them now hung thick with tension, like smoke ready to spark into flames. "What do you mean?" Amelia whispered, moving closer to the desk. "The air, it feels alive," Jeb replied, voice low yet frantic, "like it's waiting for something." Amelia's heart raced again. She reached out and lifted one of the papers. The scrawl of ink twisted horrifically into shapes that made her stomach churn, a frenzied account of horror, detailing how the previous crew had vanished, one by one. They said it, her voice faltered, the words tasting bitter. "It feeds on fear, on regret, like it thrives on our pain." Just then, the previously unshakable foundation shifted beneath their feet, a pulse resonating through the ship. Jeb stumbled, steadied himself on the desk, panic flashing in his eyes. "No, no, no. We can't stay here." Amelia felt it too, a dreadful thrum that seemed to echo the somber tales woven into those pages. The shadows from the door seeped under the threshold, tendrils of darkness searching for them, curling like fingers trying to clutch at their ankles. "No!" Amelia shouted, and she slammed the paper down, determination hardening her resolve. "We can't give in to it. We have to fight back." She spun around, meeting Jeb's wide eyes. "What if we can turn this against them?" "Against what?" Jeb asked, a hint of disbelief lacing his voice. "The ship? The shadows? The stories? The crew? There has to be a way to reverse whatever curse is laid upon this vessel." Amelia's heart thundered as hope ignited a fire within her. She dug deeper into the desk, rifling through the remaining papers, her fingers brushing against something unexpected, cold metal. She pulled it free. A dagger, its blade glinting defiantly in the dim light, a mirror of their own fears and courage. "What are you going to do with that?" Jeb's voice trembled, a mixture of awe and terror. "Defend ourselves." There was a strength to her voice that surprised even her. "We face whatever comes for us together. But this time we don't just run." A loud crash erupted behind them, a resonant roar of the ship shaking with fury, as if it had heard her declaration. The shadows screamed, a cacophony of rage lashing against her fragile resolve. Amelia and Jeb stood at the brink, the light from the captain's quarters flickering like the last breath of hope in a tempest. The shadows coiled menacingly, their forms shifting and swirling, creeping closer. The whispers grew again, shifting from coaxing to venomous hisses. "Leave. Leave before it's too late." With their backs against the wall and the dagger gripped tightly, Amelia's voice rose above the roar. "We will not leave. We are not afraid." As the shadows recoiled for a moment, a new voice emerged from the tempest, cold and foreboding. "Then you will join us." The dagger's blade shimmered ominously, and Amelia knew that whatever choice lay ahead, they were about to face the true heart of the darkness. But could they really conquer the shadows that had claimed so many? The dagger seemed to pulse with its own ominous light as Jeb looked at her, Fear etched onto his face. Would it be a weapon of hope or another source of despair? Amelia took a deep breath. Hold on tight. And with that, they charged into the fray, the darkness roaring around them as the true battle began. The shadows surged, snapping and crackling like electric tendrils eager to ensnare them. Amelia gripped the dagger tightly, its cold metal reassuring against the heat of her racing blood. She felt Jeb at her side, breathing quick and shallow, every instinct screaming for them to retreat. But they had come too far. There was no turning back now. Focus, she shouted, her voice cutting through the shrieking darkness. What did the papers say? We need to remember. Jeb's eyes darted about, frantic. The crew vanished one by one and it thrived on their fears. His words rattled out in a hurry, vulnerable but vital. Right? Amelia urged, her pulse hammering. Fear. We have to confront it. Those stories. What if it's like a game? Like a puzzle? Just then, a shadow lunged from the depths. A grotesque caricature of a long-lost sailor, face twisted in grotesque pain. The ethereal form flickered, eyes hollow, mouth open in a silent scream. Jeb stumbled back as the specter reached toward them. Don't look away, Amelia yelled, raising the dagger. It needs us to fear it. With trembling hands, she focused all her thoughts, conjured memories of her deepest regrets, her fears of failure, of unfulfilled dreams. Beneath the weight of the dagger, she felt a strange connection, a current of energy flowing from her into the blade, wrapping around her like an invisible cloak. It's working, Jeb gasped, his voice thick with disbelief. But the specter didn't shrink back. It surged forward, its shriek piercing the air, a twisted echo of the souls trapped within the ship. The darkness twisted and writhed, feeling the power of her resolve, feeding off the desperation that seeped from Jeb's cracking facade. No, Amelia roared, her heart pounding like a war drum. You don't own us. We are strong enough. Another surge of energy sparked in the dagger, brightening the room momentarily, pushing the shadows back. The room swayed with the force, strange sounds creaking from the ship's timber as if it were a living being, grasping for its victims. But there was no time to feel victorious. New shadows poured in from all directions, rushing forward like teeth snapping in the dark. We need to fight them, Amelia. We can't just stand here, Jeb shouted, panic creeping into his voice again. Amelia felt a chill creep down her spine. She knew he was right. The shadows were not just figments. They were alive, and they would not stop until they consumed them. We charge again, she declared with wild determination. Face your fear, Jeb. Hold on to it, use it. As they lunged forward together, the dagger pulsed with an ethereal glow, illuminating their path through the oncoming wall of shadows. Each step felt like charging into a storm, a deluge of darkness that sought to drown them. The whispers rose to a deafening crescendo, voices layered in despair and rage, urging them to succumb. Run, you're trapped, you'll never escape. But with every step, the cold grip of fear loosened, revealing the echoes of their strength. Suddenly, Jeb stumbled, caught on a shadow that sprang towards him, its claws raking at his jacket. Amelia spun, thrusting the dagger forward, slicing through the tendrils of darkness. They parted as if held at bay by the blade's light. But for how long? Amelia turned back to Jeb, his face a contorted mask of fright. We have to find that source, he shouted over the chaos, clinging to the hope she ignited. Right? She snapped back, not allowing doubt to slip into her voice. We'll find out what it wants. They plunged deeper into the darkness, the shadows howling at their heels. The room morphed around them, bending impossibly, echoing their fear while concealing its secrets. Amelia's heart raced. If there was a core to this dread, they needed to find it or risk being devoured. Another shadow flickered beside them, forming an all-too-familiar figure, a crew member, eyes blazing with anguish. You cannot win, it spat, the whispering voice intertwining with the others. Shut up, Amelia shouted, the dagger illuminating the room like a beacon. We aren't afraid of you or your voices. Was she convincing anyone? The dagger felt heavy now, its grip slipping past hope into dire uncertainty. A distant sound echoed something wet and pulsing, throbbing with a sinister rhythm. "What is that?" Jeb whispered, dread washing over his face. "Whatever this ship is hiding, we'll find it." Amelia squared her shoulders and pressed forward. But as they stepped into what seemed to be a cavernous space, the shadows pooled around them, a thick mist swirling, and the sickening pulse grew louder, echoing their heartbeats. "Amelia, what if?" Jeb's voice dropped to a quavering whisper, dread pooling in the air between them. But before she could respond, the shadows closed in, and a new voice materialized from the fog, deep and commanding. "Welcome, souls. Your journey is just beginning." In that moment, Amelia felt the ground shift beneath her. What lay ahead was more than just shadows. It promised to reveal the terrible truth of the ship's curse. Would they discover hope? Or were they destined to join the ranks of the lost? And then she heard it, a low, haunting laugh echoing through the chamber, chilling her to the bone. The mist thickened into a suffocating shroud, wrapping around Amelia and Jeb, smothering any light the dagger emitted. Their breath quickened, panic clawing at their throats. Shadows loomed closer, a wall of darkness threatening to swallow their hope. But no, not here, not now. Amelia gathered her resolve, pressing on against the dread that seeped into her bones. "Stay close," she whispered, though she could barely hear herself over the rising wail of distorted voices surrounding them. They sounded like the dead, speaking in tongues that twisted her insides. "Do you feel that?" Jeb murmured, his voice shaky. It's like it knows us." "It does," Amelia replied, steeling her spine. "But we're stronger than it thinks." But doubt gnawed at her edges. As they moved deeper into the gloom, flashes of memories both precious and painful flickered in her mind, unbidden and chaotic. Jeb's trembling hand caught her attention, blood draining from his face. "There, can you see it?" he gasped, his voice barely a whisper. A shape began to emerge from the darkness, a pulsing heart of shadow that throbbed at the center of this cursed chamber. Amelia narrowed her eyes. "That must be the source. We have to destroy it." Before she could plan their next move, the shadows surged, forming a distorted figure a captain obscured, his expression hidden beneath a hood, rotting teeth glittering in the dim light. "You wander into my world," the shadow growled, voice echoing with ancient malice. "Do you seek to challenge me?" "We seek the truth," Amelia shouted, forcing the words past her fear. "What have you done to the crew?" A barking laugh erupted from the captain's lips. "They were weak. Their fears fed me, and now they roam as shadows, servants to my will. But you are different." His eyes narrowed, glimmering with interest. "You have strength." "Don't listen to it, Amelia," Jeb shouted, taking a step back. "It's trying to lure you." But Amelia felt compelled to push forward. "We will not become like them." The dagger in her hand pulsed, resonating against her determination. Suddenly, the shrouded captain flung an arm wide, and the shadows morphed into phantom figures, former crew members, their faces contorted with sorrow and fury. Each one reached for Jeb, their outstretched fingers stained with anguish. Help us," they all moaned together, a unified choir of despair. "Amelia," Jeb shouted, his eyes locked onto the faces from the past. "They're trying to pull me in." "No," her voice boomed, slicing through the cacophony. "Your fear is what this thing thrives on. Remember who you are." As Jeb struggled, she lunged forward, raising the dagger high. "I won't let you have him," she screamed, plunging the blade toward the core of shadows. The dagger collided with an unseen barrier, reverberating through the room, sending a shockwave that rippled across their surroundings. Wisps of smoke hissed, and the shadows recoiled, some howling as if in pain, while others shrieked in rage. "Foolish girl, you'll regret this," the captain roared, and suddenly, the walls of darkness seemed to slide, shifting the landscape. The echoes of ghosts grew louder, drowning her in a swell of frantic whispers. Amelia's heart raced, but she could see the shadow's facade cracking, its hold wavering. With each moment, she felt the dagger grow warmer, as if it were absorbing the dark energy. Jeb regained his footing, eyes meeting Amelia's, igniting a fierce determination within him. Together, he shouted, grasping her hand. Together, they both cried, pushing forward as one, weapon and will, a united front against the encroaching despair. But as they pressed closer to the heart of the darkness, a final wave swept over them, ravaging their senses. Amelia gasped, the weight of fear almost overwhelming. Jeb, their surroundings twisted, a void opening beneath them. Into the abyss they began to fall, but not without the captain's voice trailing behind them, thick with a cruel promise. This isn't the end, little ones. You've simply awakened what lies beneath. Plummeting into the shadows, they clung to each other, the darkness pressing tighter around them. Would they emerge from this void, or would it consume them whole? The ground was fading, but the echoes of laughter encircled them, whispering secrets of the unknown. What had they truly disturbed? With a final breath, Amelia prepared for whatever awaited them below, knowing she had to confront not just her fears, but whatever twisted truth lay ahead. For even in darkness, hope flickered a perilous ember, ready to ignite. The fall felt endless. Amelia and Jeb clung to each other, hearts thudding in sync with the dark pulse surrounding them. The abyss swallowed every sound, every shred of hope. As they plummeted deeper, shadows twisted around them like serpents, coiling tighter with every second. They landed abruptly, the ground solid yet unnaturally cold, sending jolts of panic through their bodies. Amelia glanced around, trying to orient herself in the darkness. The oppressive gloom had a texture, something slick and stifling, like stale breath whispering secrets in her ears. Jeb, are you okay? She murmured, her voice barely a tremor in the chilling air. Silence lingered, stretching painfully. Then, she felt his hand grasp hers, shaking but alive. I think so, but where are we? He replied, fear squeezing the words from his throat. Amelia strained her eyes against the blackness. In the distance, shapes flickered, more solid than the shadows but still shrouded in gloom. I don't know, but I have a feeling we've crossed into something worse. The shadows shifted ominously, swirling together to form ghastly faces. One by one, they reached out with ghostly fingers, their expressions trapped between sorrow and madness. They chanted in fragmented whispers, join us, surrender to the depths, don't listen. Amelia shouted, pushing against the rising tide of despair. They want to drag you down. Fight it. Jeb squeezed her hand tighter, his breath quickening. What if this is all an illusion? What if the captain was right? What if we can't escape? Stop it, she snapped, though doubt gnawed at her insides. We've come this far. We can't let it win. Suddenly, the dagger pulsed violently in her grip, radiating heat and light that momentarily sliced through the shadows. Her heart raced, it could be their salvation. With her heart steadying, Amelia raised the dagger high, the light illuminating their surroundings just enough to reveal the truth. They were in a chamber carved from solid stone, the walls adorned with dark, wet graffiti of despair. Amelia, look. Jeb's eyes widened as he pointed to the far end of the chamber. A larger figure loomed in the shadows, the captain. His face no longer obscured. The decay was worse, the rotting flesh a grotesque reminder of what he was. He beckoned to them, grinning with sickly delight. You tread deeper into my realm, my little mice, he rasped, words slithering like venom. You think your light can save you? Every flicker feeds my power. Amelia's stomach twisted. What do you want from us? She shouted, anger igniting her voice. The captain stepped out from the shadows, the air thickening around him. To bear witness, sweetheart. Witness the fate of the weak and be prepared to join them. They began to feel the air change. The cries of the phantoms transformed into wails of real sorrow, echoing their fears back at them. Fears of failure, of being alone, of drowning in darkness forever. Stay focused, Amelia yelled over the cacophony, drawing strength from Jeb's presence. Together we fight. She could feel the dagger absorbing the despair, pulsing with urgency. With a deep breath, Amelia thrust it toward the captain, determined to sever whatever hold he had over their minds. But the shadows surged, slithering and twisting around the captain, forming a grotesque barrier. The dagger didn't reach him. Instead, darkness enveloped them again, sending them sprawling. As they struggled to stand, Amelia felt the pressure of 1,000 eyes upon them, the weight of untold fears pressing down. The phantoms crowded closer, their cries blending with the captainess' laughter, an avalanche of terror that threatened to smother them. "What do we do?" Jeb gasped, fear etching his features. "Fight back," Amelia shouted, determination electrifying her veins. She lifted the dagger higher, its glow igniting embers of bravery in her chest. "We need to believe we can escape." Just then, the ground trembled, shifting beneath them as fissures opened, revealing a deeper abyss just waiting to swallow them whole. "Amelia, we can't," Jeb shouted, his voice wavering. "We can, Jeb," she cried back, feeling the last tendrils of doubt burn away. "But we must face it head on. We have to see it for what it truly is." As they stood united with the dagger gleaming, the captainess' smirk faltered, slipping into a snarl. "Very well, children. Let us see your resolve. Your moment of truth is." But suddenly, they were yanked away, propelled into darkness once more, a drop that plunged deeper than before. Amelia's scream mingled with Jeb's, but she felt the dagger pulse, stronger now. What lay below? What dark truths awaited them in the very depths of despair? The only answer was the chilling echo of laughter that resonated around them, promising that the worst was yet to come. The shadows recoiled, their rage palpable as Amelia and Jeb plummeted deeper into the void. Harmful whispers echoed like a dirge, entangling them in dread. But through the oppressive darkness, that pulsing light from the dagger felt like a heartbeat alive, filled with promise. With a violent thud, they landed again hard, on a cold surface that felt oddly familiar. Gasping, they scrambled to their feet, the air crackling with tension. They stood at the brink of a vast abyss, its maw gaping wide, hints of flickering light dancing within the dark. "Amelia!" Jeb searched her face, a mix of determination and fear in his eyes. "Keep the dagger up. It's our only hope." Amelia gripped the weapon tighter, the blade warmed against her palm. The captainess' vile laughter echoed within the cavern, bathing everything in despair. "Your struggle is futile. You cannot escape the truth of what you are." "Shut up," Amelia shouted, directing the dagger forward as the shadows writhed. "We are not afraid of you." Filling her lungs with hope, she stepped toward the abyss. "You may control the light and dark, but you'll never control us." The captain surged forward, his form shifting in and out of sight. "But fear is your ally. It binds you together in this realm of shadows." "No," Jeb countered, stepping closer to Amelia. "It's your fear that binds you." They locked eyes, holding on to what strength they had left. "Together, remember? We can break this cycle." The ghostly figures of regret and sorrow twisted around them, their fingers reaching out, pulling at their souls. Amidst the chaos, Amelia summoned her past, her children, their laughter, their fearless spirits. The whispers dulled, giving way to memories that burned with vibrant energy, bright against the encroaching darkness. "Amelia," Jeb breathed, adrenaline rushing through his veins. "Now, show what you're capable of." Amelia yelled, raising the dagger, the energy within igniting like wildfire. "We are stronger together." With a furious thrust, she plunged the dagger down, hitting the dark core of tales long forgotten. White light erupted from the blade, illuminating the chamber with a searing brightness that pierced the shadow's veil. Shapes recoiled, shrieking, as memories burst forth like a dam breaking, crew members long lost, riding the waves of nostalgia, their cries shifting from despair to reluctant hope. The captain staggered, his once imposing figure flickering like a candle in the wind. "You think you can fight me with memories? I was born of this fear." "Not anymore," Amelia howled, determination flooding her voice. "This ship can't have us." The dagger glowed brighter, and as she began to turn, a warm light wrapped around her like an embrace. Suddenly, she felt the laboring weight of generations beneath her, the final breaths of sailors lost. They stirred, not lost but awakened, their souls drawn toward the warmth she had cultivated. Set us free, they all cried in unison, their voices a wave that surged through the shadows, binding together, lifting the sorrow. Their freedom was just a heartbeat away. The captain howled, his form woven from denial. No, I can't know. With one last thrust, Amelia released a yell that burst from her very core. You don't own us. We are stronger than you ever knew. The dagger pierced through the dark barrier, a rush of energy blasting through the chamber and breaking the shadows apart. Light flooded the room, consuming the last remnants of despair. Screams echoed, fear dissolving into a memory, a whisper of laughter that echoed sweetly through the air. With one final flash, the captain disintegrated into wisps of regret, fading from existence. Amelia and Jeb stumbled backward, the shadows unraveling around them, the pull of darkness replaced by an astonishing peace. The vessel groaned one last time, and with it, the pain of past ghosts erupted into the open sky, releasing their hold over the ship. Cool, fresh air filled the space, suffused with new beginnings, and the walls of the vessel began to shimmer, revealing golden light as the remnants of the storm outside receded. The ship, transformed, revealing its true form once a vessel of despair, now bathed in the light of hope. Is it over? Jeb panted, his voice hoarse yet filled with fresh wonder. It has to be. Amelia breathed, warmth flooding her chest as she looked around. We did it. Together they took a step forward, hearts lighter than air. They embraced each other, tears of relief flowing freely. The pain they carried gradually faded, replaced by a promise of home as they left the past behind them. The specters now liberated soared around them in joyful celebration, whispers of gratitude filling the air. Gratitude that echoed until the sun broke over the horizon, painting the world anew. But within this newfound peace, Amelia clenched the dagger as a reminder, a token of their struggle. No matter the darkness, they had confronted it together. As they stepped onto solid ground at the dock, hand in hand, Amelia turned to Jeb, her heart swelling with determination. Let us go home. Yeah, he smiled, the weight of the ship lifting. Let us create a brighter future. And so they did, leaving behind the haunted cargo ship of the Bering Sea, forever transformed, forever free. Don't wait even one more second. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will blow your mind. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic ending. And remember, you must share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this conclusion. Only true fans know the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.